Hi, welcome to Bariatric Bites. My name is Megan Hammis. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist, and this is the blog that I put together for our class project. My topic was protein before and after bariatric surgery, and I chose this topic because I have worked with bariatric surgery patients and weight management patients for the last 7 years of my career. So I knew that something like protein before and after bariatric surgery would be something I was really familiar with, and I wouldn't have to do a lot of research on the topic that I was presenting and could spend more time and energy learning about the different technology that I could use for nutrition education. So here on the homepage, you'll see my elevator pitch. Welcome to Bariatric Bites, a blog written by a registered dietitian with bites of nutrition advice to help people preparing for bariatric surgery and people who have already had surgery and want to keep crushing their goals. My blog posts are also located on the homepage, so if you scroll down, you'll be able to see the 3 different blog posts that I did. I'll come back to these. I want to go into the different pages. So besides my homepage, I have my About page. So here's my About Me, my little biography. I talk about the fact that this is for a class at Framingham State University, that I'm working on my master's degree. You can also subscribe to the blog here in my About page as well. On my contact page, there's a form that you can fill out that would send a contact form to me. I didn't want to put my phone number and email out here, but I did link my social media, my Twitter, my LinkedIn, and my Diigo. The little symbols all are links that you can click. And you might have noticed that those are actually also on the top banner of my blog, and those show up on every page. The podcast page has my 2 podcast episodes. I'll explain why there's 2 when I go through my blog posts. And then my video page with my 2 YouTube videos. Again, I'll explain that when I go into my blog posts. So if we go back to the homepage, scroll down a little bit, you'll see the 3 blog posts. The first blog post I did was protein after bariatric surgery. So it's some basic information. What is protein? Why is it important? How much is enough? What foods have protein in them? This was the blog post that included my infographic. I really enjoyed using the app Canva to create this infographic. I already was familiar with Canva. I had used it for social media in the past, but I had never really created something like this, and I really enjoyed it. It was something I felt a little uncomfortable and uneasy about because I don't feel like I'm very creative or graphic design inclined, but I felt like it worked out really well for me. So my target audience for this project was adults getting ready for bariatric surgery. And I feel like the blog overall lends itself to that audience because having worked with adults getting ready for bariatric surgery in my career, I know that blogs, social media, things like Canva for Instagram, Twitter, that's what they tend to gravitate towards for information outside of what they learn from their bariatric team. So this blog is just another tool that they can use. So you can go back to the home page to get to the rest of the blog post, or as you can see down at the bottom here, you can see the other 2 articles. So the second blog post that I made was about Baritastic. So this was my nutrition app review. It wasn't specifically about protein. However, you can use Baritastic to track your protein. So it was a good fit. And this is an app that I am very familiar with and had recommended to my patients when I was working in this field. So I really enjoyed doing the review of it. So I have my review and also a link to the Baritastic features and links that people can download the app onto their phone. If they were looking at my blog on their phone, they could just click these links and get the app for the iPhone or for their Android phone. You might have noticed that I had added a picture here. I noticed when I published my blogs, if I didn't have a picture, it just looked very plain. I didn't like how it looked without a picture. So I used one of the resources that we looked up in the beginning of this class to find some photos on the public domain that I could use for my blog. In this example, I have a person that is cooking a meal and using their phone, and I thought that went really well with the app review. So we'll get to the other blog entry by going back to the homepage, just trying to show you around a little bit. So scrolling down again, you can see the liquid protein supplements blog entry. So this was the blog that I ended up recording another YouTube and podcast for. Since that was the purpose of this blog article, was to include our links to our podcast and our link to our YouTube video, I thought it would be really repetitive with the with the episodes I had recorded for the purpose of the previous modules. So I had basically made my infographic, my podcast, and my YouTube all generally the same, but just a little bit different format. And I thought that would be really repetitive to have another blog article that was talking about what protein was and the basics, and just saying, well, here's a link now to this podcast and this YouTube. So I recorded a podcast and a YouTube about protein supplements, and then I summarized them in this blog as well. So at the bottom of each one of the blog entries, you can find this little link icon. If you click on that, you can get the link and share that to your social media. So if you really enjoyed this article, you could copy this link and share it to your Twitter or your Facebook. You can also give a little love. And at the very bottom, you can put in a comment for each one of the blog articles too. So overall, I really enjoyed doing this project. I am already very familiar with using blogs because it's something I do for myself personally, but it was a little bit challenging to use a different format. So the blog format that I use for my own personal blog is WordPress. And I learned through this experience that Wix has a lot more options that you would actually have to pay for in WordPress. So I liked learning about that. Another thing I really enjoyed about this project was doing the podcast episodes. I think that's something I'll definitely continue, and I actually want to include that in my own personal blog in the future. I really enjoyed doing the podcast episodes, and using Podbean was very simple and straightforward. I found it really challenging to have such a specific topic, as I mentioned. So just using the protein before and after bariatric surgery, I think if I were to go back and do this again, I would choose a topic that was a little bit more broad so I would have more options of posts to make. I don't see myself continuing this specific blog, but I definitely see myself taking bits and pieces from this class and what we've learned and putting it into my own blog, or maybe using some of the options in the future for my current area of expertise, which is actually in renal nutrition. I am working as a dialysis dietitian now. So overall, I really enjoyed this project. I enjoyed putting together the blog. I learned so much about how to find pictures and how to make sure that the blog and things that we're using are appropriate for visually impaired people and that it's easy to read. I found it challenging, honestly, to do shorter blog posts because the blog posts I'm used to making are usually very long and lengthy. They're almost like more diary entries. The blog that I have for my personal blog is about running and nutrition. So a lot of my blogs are race recaps and they tend to get very long and wordy. So it was a challenge for me to keep it to only 250 words at the most for these blog posts. But I also felt like it taught me something that, you want to get the point across, you want to get it across quickly, and you want to include the most important information. So I hope that you've enjoyed looking at Bariatric Bites. The last thing that I want to point out, another struggle that I had was trying to figure out how to put links in different places. So I struggled figuring out how to put my social media links up at the top. And I also really struggled with how to figure out how to enter a search option. And I don't know if this was part of my actual blog or if this is something I ended up accidentally doing. But if you wanted to search for something on my page, you'll see this little magnifying glass on all of the different pages. You can just click that and you can type in whatever you wanted to look up. So I'll just put protein in there, hit enter, and you scroll back down again and it will highlight wherever I've talked about protein on my blog. So thank you for listening to my screencast and watching and checking out my blog. And I look forward to seeing what everyone else has done for this project.